We're going to get into the House of Lean, and this should now wrap up all of the things that we've been talking about today. It's a summary of all of the Lean principles. The key concepts are: the House of Lean is a classic representation. It's a way of representing all of those Lean principles that we've been discussing. It illustrates how all of them work together and they build together to activate flow. So the baseline, the foundation, is leadership, systems thinking and process integrity. And then we have those principles in the middle, and then on top we have flow of value. How are you? How are you?
Yeah, I'm here. So the House of Lean concept, you see it on the left. Well, it's a little bit hard to read there, but you have elements like Kaizen and automation and working with just-in-time and having as a goal the highest quality. In other words, inspired by this notion of you got to have a foundation, you have some supporting pillars, and then you have the beautiful roof. That's your intention. Using that concept, that way of thinking, we have the House of Lean applied to Disciplined Agile. And the foundation is leadership. In other words, without foundational leadership that respects people and the way of interaction, without attending to systems thinking and investing in process integrity, we're not going to be able to achieve good flow of value for business and customers and employees and society as a whole. Now, how do we create good flow of value? Well, we do so by respecting people, by making things visible, by attending to just-in-time work that triggers flow, and by relentless improvement. And we've talked a lot about Kaizen, but it's not just Kaizen, it's also Kaikaku. So in other words, not just small, gradual incremental changes, it's also more radical, more intense changes at times as well. So the relentless improvement covers both of those elements. Aldo.
Okay, so at the bottom of this foundation, it is leadership, and Jorge has already alluded to that, but it's actually about building trust. And one of the Lean values, the original Lean values, it's about building that environment in trust. So this means, from a leadership perspective, there must be focus about removing barriers to the Lean implementation. And sometimes that means they need to change their own behavior, moving from not just being managers, but also being leaders. They're also tasked to build that environment of trust. Now, it takes a long time to build up trust, but it takes one instance to actually destroy that trust between leaders and followers, or people working for other people. So it's really a difficult thing to achieve in some organizations. It also looks at alignment and provides more value than local excellence. Okay. One thing that leadership is also need to do is also develop people to unlock their intrinsic motivation. So sometimes this means you've got to have a coaching approach instead of a top-down approach to things. Leadership's also focused on equipping people with problem-solving tools and show how to use them. And once they understand that, is to partner in the problem solving and not just telling them how to solve the problem, but actually walk that journey with the team. And then last point here is that leadership must be about equipping people. It's about people themselves. They must show them in their work and their practices. So this leadership themselves must walk the talk as well. It's how to use these practices and skills and use them. They are partners in problem solving instead of just managing a team. Gareth.
So now we're going to talk about systems thinking again. So as we discussed just shortly, most errors are due to the system. We need to look at ways of improving the entire system. People doing the work have to do this. People who notice the work locally can make those Kaizen fixes, very small, iterative and incremental fixes. We can't achieve this by local optimization because that will sub-optimize locally. So we've got to think of the system as a whole and optimize globally. Therefore, we need to understand the relationships between aspects of that system and how they interact with one another. The role of management is to facilitate the improvement of the entire system. Horia.
What does process integrity mean? It means that we expect that the people that actually do the work are the ones best placed to actually improve the way of work. We also, however, recognize that too often, while doing the work, I'm busy doing the work, but I need support, I need help, I need to be enabled to improve the work. So that's why I need management to facilitate the improvement of the system. I need management to remove obstacles for me. I need management to provide for me the safety and the opportunity to make improvements to the way of work. For example, there's this concept in the Toyota production system of Andon, of using visualizations and a means of stopping the flow of the line of assembly. In other words, when a defect is found, everybody stop, let's look at the defect, let's figure out how to fix it, and let's use this opportunity when we're stopping and we're noticing to learn what didn't go quite right. In other words, when a defect is found, let's focus on learning, not just, blame. Yeah. When defects are found, let's learn how to get better. So the most effective organizations use this discovery of defects as an opportunity to teach and to learn and to get better. That's why paying attention to root causes is also essential. Aldo.
Okay, so one of the reason why the flow of value is at the top is because you need all of these other things in place for this to actually occur. And the flow of value is about providing that best quality benefit to people and society. Now, those people could be employees, it could be customers, it could also be the business itself. Remember earlier today we discussed who's actually the judge of quality, and we had a little bit of a chat around that, and we found that customers is actually the best placed people to define those quality. It also includes technical quality. The other thing for you to achieve flow is you need high morale in the employees and society to actually help to deliver this flow of value. And it needs to be safe to do so. If you're going to have somebody that screams at somebody else if something goes wrong, it's not going to be safe in order to learn and improve. Flow of value is also about customer delight. So the POP index that Horia talks about, it is about delightful customers, and it's also one of the nine the discipline, agile values and principles. You may be surprised about the last one that says pivot without mercy or guilt. And the goal is here to be data driven and pragmatic when it comes to improving flow. And to actually try and be as pragmatic and not sentimental as possible. Gareth.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the 4 pillars on this House of Lean. The first is about respecting people. It's about culture. It's about humans. It's a knowledge work, and we have to attend to people's needs. Culture is the context in which all of this change must happen. We recognize who consumes your work as customers. So every time we do work, we think, who are we doing this for? Who's going to consume the value? We need to look at the people's needs and wants. And focused on other views, we need to have an empathy to other people in the system and other people who are going to consume our work. Therefore, we need to build trust. And trust is the baseline and the fundamental basis of everything that we do. And harmonious and high-performing teams trust one another. And so we want to build partnerships. We don't want an adversarial relationship, which historically is how we would create organizations. So therefore, we create an environment of mutual influence. Horia.
Making things visible, noticing things. That essentially means it's insufficient to just focus just on the work. We need to sharpen the saw as well. we need to take time to improve the flow of the work as well. So learning, noticing, not just about our own little piece of work, but how is the system of work actually happening? What's happening upstream of me? What's happening downstream of me? How can I help in both directions? How can I actually create more innovative ways of doing things? How can we rearrange our way of work? Making time for this, that's what making things visible is about. The get out of the building, you might be surprised by this. Get out of the building essentially means don't just get so absorbed in your work that you forget about your customers. Get out of the building, see your customers, notice in what context are they actually using the things that you create, and that will give you a lot of insight as to how effective is it that you're creating things. Too often you find that designers create things and they don't really pay attention to how those things will be maintained and cleaned and improved over time by the people actually using them. So therefore, if you do get out of the building, then you can actually notice, that's what's happening. That's how we can actually get better.
Good examples of software architects.
It's very true. I can get so absorbed into my architecture, I don't notice what the impact is, therefore I'm in trouble. Yeah. So innovation accounting is about noticing what innovations are happening, and if you notice that much of what you're doing has stagnated, that should be an alarm to say, oh, hold on, things should be improved. Aldo.
Okay, so this is about just in time or achieving flow. Flow is more about in the context here is so what I've seen is that some people would achieve in a state of flow, and then they would really be focused on the task that they're busy working, and then they'll be interrupted, and there's actually a loss there because their concentration has been interrupted. So that's an example, but it's also about focusing on any delays that can cause extra work. So remember those pie charts that we just discussed earlier today was about adding extra work causes actual additional delay and extra work. You also need to look at leveraging fast feedback, because the better you are at it, the better you can maintain flow of work and then ultimately flow of value as well. We saw we talked earlier about reducing batch size. We've quoted from I forgot the guy's name now. So reducing batch size is all you saw with the dot game as well. When we went down to one sticky, you actually started to get more work into the queue and flowing. That also means that you need to manage queues and limiting WIP, work in process. So we did discuss that earlier today. And manage flow for variability and uncertainty. And the very last thing is that foster psychological flow. Now, there was some work done by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and there's the link for you to go read on Wikipedia about psychological flow. But once you're in the zone, you actually achieve maximum flow of tasks. It's in the zone work. So really respect that individual's needs when they're focusing and delivering on a piece of task, is respect that. So there's a little bit of a reference to that. Gareth.
And so the final pillar is about relentless improvement. We wish to stay vigilant and